So hello everyone, thanks for giving so much love to all the episodes before. I'm here back with Sailaja Manacha. So Sailaja is a psychotherapist, a speaker and an author. Thanks for coming here, joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So my first question to you is if you can just talk about your background and what you do.
Sure. So I am a psychologist and a psychotherapist. And I'm also a teacher in psychotherapy, which means people who wish to become therapists, they study with me for a couple of years before they get credentialed to be a psychotherapist in the clinical field.
Okay.
And this is one avatar. The other part of my life is leadership coaching, where I work with business leaders and their teams in order to improve their productivity and effectiveness in their workplace. So that's pretty much, the two aspects or the two dimensions of my work.
Okay, so before getting into about Step Up, let's just talk about the journey of psychotherapist. So how did you start, how did you get into being a psychotherapist?
I think I was always interested in psychology, right from the days of my graduation. However, when I studied, psychology further, I studied organizational psychology. And that's how I then developed a career in the corporate world. I used to be head of HR with a software organization here in Bangalore. But on the parallel, I also started volunteering in the field of counseling. And that's personal counseling, individual counseling. And that really got my interest up even further, renewed my interest in psychology. And I started studying again in the year 2000, right? I started studying psychology, picking up skills, and then I did several exams and got credentialed. So now I'm a transactional analyst. That's the frame of psychology that I use. And so now it's about 20 years since I've been in that space, actively practicing, as well as now I'm also a teacher and a supervisor in this field.
Okay, so how hard does it becomes, what are the pros and cons of being a psychotherapist?
Psychotherapy is not the most, now I think it's very different, as in, especially with the younger generation like all of you. I think you understand this profession and the need for being supported, a space to talk about, work through your issues. But if you think of, even 10 or 15 years ago, if you think of a different generation of people, they didn't necessarily understand psychotherapy. Yeah, there are a lot of stigmas around going and talking about your problems. Yeah, a lot of people think those who go to therapists are crazy people. Right, but there's a big difference between having, being a mentally a challenged or unstable person, and it's very different just being a person with troubles who needs some support. They're two different things. So I think there's a lot of stigma, a lot of misunderstanding of this field, and so that poses challenges to us professionals because people don't know what to expect. Yeah, they think that going to a psychotherapist is like going to a doctor, which means you may go and ask for medicines, or people think that you go to a doctor just for one visit, right? But psychotherapists don't work like that. We work over a long period of time, months together, and sometimes years together with a client, right? So there is no clarity, I think, in terms of understanding what is psychotherapy, what can I get out of it, how does it work. So there's a big part of what we have to do is education. Yeah, educate clients, who come to us, educate why one should do this, educate the value of self-awareness, educate the value of doing this work. So I think that, those kind of challenges are quite significant, for psychotherapy. Now, I think a lot of it is changing, and it has rapidly changed in the last 5 or 6 years. I see a big shift in attitudes now. And I think now that I'm a teacher and I train psychotherapists, I just see a lot of my people who study with me, they have thriving practices. Yeah, everybody is really, has plenty of clients and they're doing good work. So I think there has been a shift over the years.
Okay, so next, getting into your book Step Up. So how did you get into writing?
how did I get into writing? I never saw myself as a writer, Lakshit. I didn't know at all that I could write, honestly. But I just wanted to say something. I think that's how it started. Because for the last 10 years, I've been running women-only groups, right? Because I don't know how much you're aware, but we have quite a crisis in the space of women in leadership, not just in India, but even in the world. There are very few women leaders at the top. And in India, even more so, there are a lot of challenges. And as a psychologist, I was beginning to see over the groups that I was running that there were such bright, brilliant career professionals who still didn't seem to be experiencing success in their careers, as women. So that's what prompted me to say, let me do more in this area. And that's how I started sort of writing. And Step Up is the book, of course, but Step Up is also a course. It's a 4-month leadership program that's available online 100% just for women in leadership. So it's also a course and it's also a book. So I think my book idea came because I just think it increases access for people to do these reflections, to access my work. Because when I'm a teacher, I can meet only a small bunch of people in a workshop. Right? But a book has so much better reach. So it's really just access and reach that I wanted, and that's how I wrote the book.
Okay. So what was the process of writing for you?
The process of writing for me was quite a struggle because I think I started and I didn't get anywhere because, I haven't really seen myself as being a writer. I don't have a blog or any of that. Yeah. So I literally just started straight with the book. So what I decided was to make it easier for me was I realized that I think well when I speak, right? So I can be very articulate when I speak, far more than when I write. And so I decided that I will speak. And as I speak, what I want to say will emerge rather than struggling and sitting in front of a computer. So I decided to take on, I had somebody supporting me and we would just have a lot of conversations. We would make notes of those conversations. And in the speaking, I find a chapter would emerge, right? Because I was talking from my experience of so many years. So the stories were inside of me. Many, many stories of my clients, many stories of people and leaders I've coached. So this is not, I didn't have to find it. It's already there, right? So in speaking, I found, big sections of a chapter would just be spoken. And in that process, at the end of those 1.5, 2 hours, it would be clear to me what's the crux of a chapter. And then I would write, so that was the initial process. And as it progressed, I found I didn't need to speak anymore. I didn't need to have those conversations anymore. It would anyway flow, right? So I would just sit down and I would just write.
Okay, so how hard was it getting yourself published?
My book isn't self-published. It's published by Sage, which is a very big publication house. I decided to not get self-published because I think because I'm writing for business and because I'm writing for, in the space of leadership, I figured it's very credible to have a proper publisher and go through the due diligence of what publishers do, right? So I went through that track and I decided not to go the self-publishing route. I think it was interesting because they have their own lens to look at your work. They have their own team, their editors. I mean, so there's a whole team that's backing your work, right? So I decided to go that route. It wasn't difficult at all because Sage is a very they're a very, very well-known, reputed, and very experienced publishing house. So their processes are pretty clear, and you just go through it.
Okay. What was the whole story to write Step Up? What is there in the book which we can expect?
There in the book?
Yeah.
Sure. So you see, I teach 2 frameworks, Lakshit. One is transactional analysis, which is a
Okay.
framework of psychology. It
Okay.
explains human behavior, personality. It explains, why are we the way we are, right? So
Yeah.
it comes from that space. And I also teach another framework called generative leadership.
Okay.
And it's a leadership framework that is used for individuals, teams, organizations. And
Mm-hmm.
it has a separate set of concepts that are very much about being generative as a human being, being able to hold big goals, achieve them, do it. Yeah, and all kinds of concepts connected with helping a person move towards a bigger promise and a bigger goal in life.
Okay.
So, because I teach both, I combine the two, right? And all my work almost always now combines the two. So there's the deep psychology element, and then there's this whole element of thinking about actions and how to move towards being in action in a productive way. So the
Okay.
book has also both these dimensions because that's who I am now. And so the book is very much about women and leadership and the difficulties that women have in achieving
Yeah.
leadership because of the social conditioning,
Yeah.
familial conditioning, a whole lot of influences that happen when girls are brought up. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think our conditioning is so different. And therefore, this conditioning carries into our life, into our adult life, into our work life.
Mm-hmm.
And then leadership becomes a challenge because a lot of women are unable to do a set of things, right?
Yeah.
So the book really talks about doing this deeper dive into your own psychology to
Okay.
understand what are your limiting patterns, what are you blocked by, how come you're blocked by it, what kind of messaging and what kind of story about your own life have you written back then, like so many years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, which is now inhibiting you today.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the tools to step out of those shadows in order to be successful? So the book is really a combination of psychology and leadership practices.
Okay. Wonderful. So,
Yeah.
like now, what what are like how did it affect your mental health when you were writing a book and then getting yourself publish going to publisher giving you manuscript and then was it affecting your mental health somewhere?
Not at all. Not at all. Because I think I took it very slow, Rohit, because I was I wrote in 2018, almost 50-60% of the book, and then
Okay.
I just let it sit there. I continued to work. I revisited the book back in 2019.
Uh-huh.
Then again I picked it up for 3 months. I changed things and I completed it. So it was a very organic process. I wasn't working with some crazy deadline or any of that. I just allowed all my work to seep into the book.
Okay.
And when you work with a large publisher, then you have to adhere after that to certain timelines.
Yeah.
And when you work with a large publisher, it's quite a smooth process. There is no back and forth unnecessarily because they are very structured in the way they approach things. So there were timelines and milestones for everything. Milestones for manuscript, milestone for first and second draft, milestone for final, for
Yeah.
design, for everything there is a plan and a milestone. So we pretty much just, it just got delivered as per those milestones. So
Mm-hmm.
I found that life just went on, on the side. There was no question of being worked up or stressed out or anything. It was a fully productive year for me. The book was going on the side, and work was also going on the side.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what did you learn handling these two things together, being a writing also and doing your normal daily work which you do?
I think writing is a challenge. Like, for example, now I'm just beginning to work on my second book. And I haven't got going with it because I just find, it has to, I think I'm a person where the book has to sit inside of me for some time. I'm not
Okay.
able to just bring it out. It
Uh-huh.
sits inside. I think it stews in me and cooks inside for some time. But I think there are many kinds of writers. I do think that writing requires some discipline. So I would often write at 3:30 or 4 a.m. in the morning. That was the time when I would write. Typically, I would work from anywhere from 3 o'clock to 6 in the morning. and I would, write. If not, then I would typically work around maybe 10, 11 a.m. for about 1 or 2 hours. And this is when I was not in workshops, when I was not teaching or coaching or, doing other groups. Those are the days when this is available. So I think writing needs discipline, which means, sometimes you just have to sit down.
Yeah.
And even if nothing's coming, you have to just sit down. That's
Yeah.
all, and just do what you have to do.
Mhm.
So there's nothing romantic or dreamy about writing. It's such a task. So I
Yeah.
think discipline, having a structure, I think that's what helped me. What did I learn from balancing the two? Really, beyond this, not too much other learning, I think, because as a professional working for so many years, I think balancing and juggling many balls in the air is quite a normal thing for a lot of us who do many
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think just the discipline and the value of writing, for me, the discipline and value of having a partner, like a listener or someone who's a sounding board, this was also very, very valuable for me. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So as you mentioned, you used to get up early in the morning and write, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, how well did it support your mental health while writing? Because I'm pretty much sure when you get up early, when everything is like when there is peace and nobody's up, uh,
Hmm.
it is a crucial time to do good things. So, how well was it? How well did it help you to write in the morning?
I found because I think personally I'm somebody who likes a lot of quiet.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I don't function with too much noise and disturbances. It doesn't help me. So I think the quiet of the morning is very helpful. And also I think I really had my own space. I mean, typically, like even now, I'm in my study right now, and I'm just surrounded by at least 300-400 books right now. So I think when you write, it's just, I would just have everything spread out. So I really had my space, and I'm really in that space of comfort, and I can just do what I want. There is no sound, there is quiet.
Yeah.
I can just be lost. There are no phone calls at that time. Nobody's asking you anything. So I think setting out that space is really important for writing. Yeah, I am unable to. I know other people who write in between, in between lots happening. Like I
Yeah.
have colleagues who write. They're writing at the airport. They're waiting for a flight. They're writing. I'm not that kind of writer. I can't do that. Yeah, so for me, I just need some space. But I think there are different kinds of people in
Yeah.
terms of how they write. Yeah.
Okay. So I think you have covered a lot of things. So last five questions I
Okay.
have. So yeah,
Okay.
what would be the best advice you ever received from someone?
What is the best advice that I've received from
Yeah.
someone? Yeah, I think it's both an advice, and it's now also, something that I believe in deeply. I think we really should choose our line of work in something that we are really passionate about and what we deeply care about,
Okay.
because we will automatically apply ourselves so well that we will be successful because we are involved and we love what we do. So I
Yeah.
think this is one of the best thing advice that anyone's given me, and what I believe also. Yeah, don't work in a space and that you don't like,
Okay.
right? So you, yeah, really like what you do. That's
Mhm.
when you'll do well.
Okay. A worst advice?
Worst advice, that people don't matter.
Okay. Wonderful. So an advice to anyone who wants to become an author.
Say that again.
Anyone who wants to an advice to anyone who wants to become an author.
Oh, okay. I think you must have as the seed of your writing something, that a story or an idea that you really want to present to the world.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think if an author needs to have that. If you don't have that at the core, then I'm guessing that you may just have a set of 10 stories in your book, and there is no life in that book. Yeah, but I think if you really have a seed of a very core message that you want to give, then I
Mhm.
think you make a good, I think you write well.
Okay. Wonderful. I think I asked you 3 questions. One more. Okay, an advice to your 18-year-old self.
Life is really long and there's a lot of time to do everything that you want to do.
Okay, wonderful. So last question. If you want to give a message to the audience or give your contact or whatever you want to speak, it's an open place for you.
I'm just thinking, you said your audience is a young, youthful audience,
Yeah.
right? So I think a couple of messages, and I say this because I'm also a mother to two girls. Yeah, my daughters are 20 and 15. Young audience, just like you,
Yeah.
just like yours. And I think my advice to, or not even advice, what I would share is, try many things in life. Yeah, because what you study may not be what you are going to work in your career.
Yeah.
So use your time to dabble in many things, and you will find somewhere that your eyes light up with something.
Yeah.
So be aware to that moment, because we must be aware about these smaller things that really excite us and draw us, because that's a good way to think about what you want to build in your future.
Yeah.
That's one. I think the other thing that I would say, especially to a youthful generation, is live life a lot more in the real, which means, we have a big space of social media and a digital presence, etc. Yeah, but there is really no replacement for, for a human connection. Yeah, and I find for younger people, it's so good to be out there, meet people, just be physically with others. Yeah, don't build your life on a platform that's not real. So I think I noticed this as a psychologist, because a lot of younger people don't have that full connection.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful to live fully in the physical presence of people, tasks, buzzing life, rather than on our devices. So I
Yeah.
think this is very important for mental health. I think that's what I would like to share.
So thank you very much. Had a wonderful session with you and full
Yeah.
insightful, a lot of messages together. Thank you for joining in us today.
All right. Thank you.